Hello everyone, today I'm going to play a bit more with my Schmincke Artists Gouache. So this gouache is brand new to me. I tried it in a previous video for the first time and I had a hard time. I struggled with it and my thoughts were that I hadn't been using gouache very much lately and also that the Schmincke Artists Gouache is not as opaque as regular designer gouache. I was able to finish my painting and I liked it, but I struggled with it. So since I've been painting more with gouache lately and also poster colors which are a bit similar to gouache, I'm slowly getting back into it and I thought that I was ready to try the Schmincke gouache again and get a good idea whether I liked it or not. So I did a couple of small paintings with it and the first one is in my sketchbook. It's a Moleskin watercolor sketchbook. It's pretty good. I've used it before with gouache and I never had any problems with it. And I painted again that scene from Spirited Away that I painted a little while ago in poster colors. I thought that now I'm familiar with it, it would be easier. I would be more comfortable painting it, and since it's a small format, it would be pretty fast also. So I put some washi tape on my page to make a clean border, and then I did a little sketch. And then I went in with the paint, and right away, just with the sky, I had a hard time. It was not very opaque, even though I added some white to the blue that I had. I really don't like the selection of colors that I have. I wish I had a second blue instead of the Viridian green. But anyways, I did what I could with what I had, and getting an opaque sky was hard. For the other colors, it really depended on which colors I used and how much white I added to them. A lot of them were fine. They worked like gouache. But all in all, it kind of felt like I was using a medium that was a bit between gouache and watercolor. Like maybe like a slightly more opaque watercolor. And so I had to adjust my technique. In the end, it worked out fine, but the way I get there was through struggling a lot more than I usually do with gouache. It feels like the colors also aren't as bright. And again, it could be because of the selection of colors that came in the set, I'm not sure. But it could also be because I had to add white to a lot of my mixes. So regardless of the adjustments and the different techniques that I had to use, I'm pretty happy with this first painting. Now the second painting is the exact same one that I just painted in my previous video with the Turner Design Gouache. I was continuing practicing with gouache, and so I painted those two back to back, and I really saw the difference. With the same kind of mix for my first layer, right away that green of the foliage really looks like watercolor. Whereas when I used the designer gouache, it was already pretty opaque and matte. This is matte too, but it's not the same. It doesn't look the same. And my theory is that paint seems to sink into the paper a lot more than regular gouache, so the pigments are probably finer than the designer gouache. And that's probably also the reason why it's more translucent and less opaque. At some point I realized that I didn't even cover the gold tape around the paper. So I painted over it without even realizing, and when I finally figured it out, I kind of freaked out. But then I thought, wait, it's just gouache, so I was able to just get it wet with a clean brush and then wipe it right off. So I decided not to put any tape on it and just continue painting away. I would clean it up at the end of the painting. So I struggled also with this painting, even though I just painted it. Really, it's the paint, it's not the same. It's not a bad paint. It's just not the kind of gouache I'm used to use. And again, it feels like the colors sink in and they're bright for 5 minutes and then they get dull. The green, I had a hard time getting a nice contrast in the foliage. And I think it's most likely because of the color selection that I had. It's not a bad painting, I like it, but you'll see at the end of the video, I'm going to put the two of them next to each other, and you can compare them. I asked around me what they thought. A lot of people liked the one that I painted with the Turner gouache better because it was more detailed, and the colors were brighter. But they like this one very much when you look at it from farther away because it looks more natural. So that's something to keep in mind too. The color selection is not the best for Ghibli scenes, that's for sure. But I'm wondering if I were to just paint a landscape, just like plein air for instance, maybe those colors would be fine. But again, I would need to adjust my techniques for this paint. Thanks to the very interesting comment from Sarah Mary's Life in Pictures, from my previous Schmincke gouache video, I found out more about Schmincke gouache. Apparently, there's another Schmincke gouache, which is a designer's gouache, and I did not know about that. So I did a little bit more research, and that one is supposed to be more opaque than the artist gouache. The artist gouache focuses on the quality and the intensity of the pigments. So there is nothing added to those pigments with the artist gouache. If the pigment is opaque, then your color will be opaque. If not, then you're going to have to mix it. Now with the designer's gouache, there is mostly white mixed with the pigments and makes those colors more opaque. So with the artist one, it's pure pigment goodness. And that's why it's still a really good paint, and it's still nice and creamy and it feels nice painting with it. But that's also the reason why I didn't have the same experience that I know with all the other brands that I have tried before. Now, it was already pretty hard finding the artist gouache in the US, and it's very expensive. But luckily you can also find it open stock, so you can just buy a few tubes at a time. Now for the designer's gouache, it's even harder to find. That's probably the reason why I didn't know about it. And I would be curious to try it. However, I haven't found a place where they sell them open stock. So if I liked it, I couldn't replace the tubes, or I couldn't buy other colors. So I'm not even gonna bother. It's not worth spending that much money if I can't buy the replacement tubes individually. So I'm sticking with what I've got right now. Alright, it's time to compare the two versions of that tree. Tell me what you think in the comments. Which one do you like best? They each have their charm, but boy, it was so much easier to use the Turner gouache with it and add layers and not seeing those colors disappear on me. Thank you all for stopping by. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And as usual, if you're feeling extra generous, you can also support this channel by clicking the thanks button next to the share button, or even just check out my store, by the way. I've never mentioned my store, but the link is in the description box, and yeah, go check it out. Have a wonderful day, everyone. I'll see you soon with another video. Bye bye.